What you could do on bass, well, of course, you know, the Motown, when you heard that unique bass sound, it was going through the Motown EQ. They had a lot of other things going on. I think they had a compressor first, then the Motown, then another compressor, something like that. It was, you know, it was a great chain. But I'm just going to play you now. Right now, I have them all set at 0, and I'm just going to bring the gain up and see what happens. So without even touching the EQ, just the gain on its own, do you hear how that the bottom of the string just gets bigger and fatter and just more and more musical? There's nothing about this EQ where you're hearing like odd harmonics or undesirable artifacts. Whatever you bring up, and you can bring it up all the way up. That's the cool thing about it. It just never breaks up. It turns into another animal practically. So just with the gain alone, it sounds so cool. Now I'll play with my favorite on the bass, generally is around 800. $130. And then gaining it up. So just depending on the bass, and same thing if you're putting this on an acoustic bass, it just makes it punchier, it just really articulates better. And I mean, you've just seen me just playing with a little bit. It doesn't really matter what you throw up. And again, it depends on what bass you're using and in context of the song. But and what I do is, since I'm now in the box, I had these hardware plugins, you know, that come into Pro Tools, and I have them on the kick and the snare, actually as sends, because generally, if I'm getting stems, they're stereo. So without having to turn things into mono, especially if a snare's got reverb on it, I just use it as a snare. It comes back up, and I do all my EQ, and then I'll print it. So I can end up using these EQs on several instruments, print it, I'm done. I don't have to worry about recall or anything. And I recommend that's the best way. It's certainly the most efficient. So I've just showed you a bass, I've showed you kick, snare, vocal is really cool. I mean, a vocal you can, you know, you're looking at throwing up 12,500 or 5K. I'll show you a little bit of that. Let's try that next.